My name is Nate Matusheski. I'm from Mondelez International and recently became the vice chair of the Carbohydrate Committee. The current chair is John DeVries from Medallion Labs, and the ILSI contacts Barbara Lyle and Courtney McComber. And also have an announcement for folks on the Carbohydrate Committee that haven't heard, but we have two new scientific advisors who actually accepted. So John Sievenpiper in the back, most folks know, and George Fahey from University of Illinois on the dietary fibers side. So I think we're in very good hands from a scientific and technical guidance standpoint with these two advisors on staff now. So what I've attempted to do, and I apologize for the size of the text as I start going down through here, but I've attempted to make kind of a committee on a page overview, and I'll walk you through it, so don't worry. Most of what we do in the Carbohydrates Committee in North America is focused either on fiber or sugars, and that tends to be the split. So under fiber, there's a lot of interest that we have right now in harmonizing the international fiber definitions and helping to create a framework for substantiation of isolated and novel fiber benefits and clarification of scientific understanding in these areas. The reason that's important is that global regulatory bodies are now moving in the direction of requiring physiological effects in order to be able to label a substance as a dietary fiber. And this has been the case in Europe, it became the case in Canada, and now it's actually a proposal that FDA has put on the table. So it's very important for us to make sure that there's clear kind of framework for this as we're working through. And to give you an idea of some of the projects, and one of the great ones I think that we can talk about is a database that we've worked with Nicola McEwen from Tufts on developing a comprehensive fiber database and evidence map of fibers with health benefits. So you can literally, as I like Doug's comment, a giant table basically, where you can cross-cut and look at dietary fiber type based on codex definition along with outcome measures, and you get other information about the type of study design, the duration of the study, et cetera. And you can build for any specific fiber type a map of the currently existing evidence, essentially kind of a bubble map of the evidence. And that gives you the basis then to go and make the assessment on a specific fiber type for its effect on health outcomes and use that as the basis for demonstration. White paper, developing a framework for evaluating dietary fibers coming from the Vahuni conference is something that's, well, it's actually, that was a session at Vahuni that Stuart, raise your hand, led the discussion there. And also we submit comments to Food and Drug Administration, dietary guidelines, et cetera, based on ILSI-funded, ILSI-conducted research. So I mentioned that. Under sugars, a lot of discussion in the US now around added sugars. So there's a proposal again on the table from FDA around putting added sugars on the food label. And our overall goal really is to contribute science around the intake, metabolism, and effects of sugars and explore the ramifications of not having an added sugars database. So there's something that used to be available from USDA around added sugars, but there were questions about maybe some of the accuracy around that. So that continues to be an issue and an area of concern. And we continue to monitor the science on food reward and behavior to help clarify the understanding of this area. Some of the projects that we've recently been, are either underway or completed, we have a systematic review on the effects of fructose, association between fructose and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which was published in the March, and Mark actually asked me, August issue of AJCN. So if you want to look that up, it's Mei Chung is the first author. And also a future research needs assessment for sugars and health outcomes. So another really interesting project that we did in that area was pulling together a stakeholder panel. So this is done also by Mei Chung at Tufts. And it's a process for identifying research gaps where you bring together a stakeholder panel, build an evidence map together, bring those two processes together to identify where are the big white space research gaps. And this can hopefully inform future funding and granting agencies to really make sure that the funding dollars are going in to fill the right research gaps in this topic. And some other things that we've done recently or recently completed, that are proposed projects. We have some interest in conducting really digging more into experimental design and appropriate use of things like animal studies, et cetera, for researching sugars with a lot of media attention around animal studies or mechanistic studies that got lots of press and lots of attention, but we then go back and say, well, how do we interpret this into the context of the science that we're aware of? We also have some interest as well in kind of reassessing the connection between sugar and dental caries. This is something that came up at the last meeting, going back to the WHO recommendations and the conditional one based on some kind of early evidence that I think kind of maybe needs to be reevaluated. And finally, under other carbohydrates, so we sometimes call this area kind of carbohydrate quality, and we struggle sometimes to define a bit, but we're really most interested in getting more or digging more into the mechanistic aspects of postprandial events and associated metabolic changes. I think this is something where there's a lot of good opportunity for us to learn from what's been done already with the Europe branch and maybe collaborate a bit more in that area. And also in science-based tools to define and characterize carbohydrate digestion. So maybe going a bit beyond what we have currently available and getting to things that we can maybe more quickly assess foods based on their ability to release carbohydrates. So that's kind of the overview of what's going on in North America, and I'd like to pass it over to Brenda Padovan to talk a little bit about a framework that we've started to think about with communicating the work that we do in the committee.
Thank you. I won't take too much time here. Thank you for staying back, but I want to put together this slide here where within the committee we come up with so many activities that we do that we can collaborate and come with a science-based communication draft, sort of more so like a best practices document. So what we did was to align what we do as individual committees, have them as 4 buckets: scientific meetings, public engagement, web promotions, and some of the internal ILSI activities that we can even communicate within the membership. So we want to put it out there to sort of this was started out as a brainstorming session. So anyone who's interested in furthering this with us, please see me at the end, and we'll be happy to kind of further this, be able to come up with a nice best practices type of document for science communication. As you saw in the opening session, there's a big need to do that, and as alluded to in the first keynote speaker. So with that, I'll turn it back to Nate. Thank you.